מלכי השלום, מלכי עליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
שלום, מלכי עליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שלום עליכם, שלום בואכם לשלום, מלכי השלום, מלכי עליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתכם לשלום, מלכי השלום, מלכי עליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שלום עליכם, שלום עליכם, שלום עליכם, שלום עליכם.
Shabbat Shalom. It is wonderful to see those who are joining us in the sanctuary this evening as we welcome in Shabbat, and we welcome those who are joining us online, joining us from home or from wherever you are. And it is the first Shabbat of the month, the first Shabbat of June, which is also Pride Month. And this evening we are honored to celebrate Pride Shabbat as we join in Pride Month with our LGBTQ plus brothers and sisters and everybody and all those who are allies, and we celebrate that this evening and throughout the month of June. And we begin with our candles and Kiddush as we welcome in Shabbat. And if you are at home, I ask that you grab candles and perhaps some wine. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. As we welcome in the light and the warmth and the peace of Shabbat, we join together, Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And for those of you who might have a grape beverage at home, we sanctify this Shabbat with the words of Kiddush. And if you are able to, I ask you to please rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagan.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava u'ratzon, inchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh, v'reishit, ki hu yom tefillah, lemikra'e kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu achata, yotanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. And we say L'chaim,
L'chaim.
and you may be seated. So, we are honored this evening to have a guest speaker, seeing as this is Pride Shabbat. This guest speaker, many years ago, when I first came here to interview, said to me, stressed to me the importance of empowering authentic voices. And I think being able to empower her to be the one to speak tonight is a great honor for me, as this is my final Pride Shabbat here at United Hebrew. And of course, I'm talking about our own Elizabeth Schlesinger, who is a lifelong congregant at United Hebrew. She serves as an attorney at Bryan, Cave, Leighton, Paisner Law Firm. It's a lot of names for a law firm. And she is a member of the National Board of Directors of the Human Rights Campaign, which is the country's largest LGBTQ civil rights organization. We're very honored to have here this evening, and so I invite her up right now to offer us some words this Shabbat.
Thank you. Good evening. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you to the rabbis for inviting me to be here tonight, and thank you to all of you who are here and online for joining us. As Rabbi Bello said, June is Pride Month, and it means so much to me to be here in my Jewish community, representing another very important part of my identity, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer plus community. Oftentimes, talks like this involve someone telling their coming out story. But I've found that coming out isn't really about the metaphoric closet door. It's more of this revolving door that we constantly cycle through, which means there's never just one coming out story. I've come out to family and friends and colleagues and clergy. I've come out in homes and hospitals. I've come out over the phone and text and all channels of social media. I've come out at weddings and in waiting rooms and at restaurants and on many airport runways to a chatty seatmate. I've come out in tears, and I've come out in triumph. I've come out to closed doors, and I've come out to open arms. And that was just like this past week. Obviously, I'm kidding. It was like the last 2 weeks. But truly, over the years, I've come out too many times to count. So what I want to talk about tonight is being out. A big part of my LGBTQ identity is tied up in my work as an activist and advocate, but it wasn't always that way. When I came out to my parents, I was really fortunate. No one kicked me out or cut me off, but that doesn't mean they exactly embraced my identity either. I come from a tight-knit family with lots of laughter and love, but almost no politics. It just wasn't something we talked about at home, and growing up at UH, it wasn't something I heard about here much either. I wasn't encouraged to take a stand or to stand out. I wasn't raised to make good trouble. I was raised to make good grades. So when I came out, I found a world of advocacy that I hadn't really known growing up. And over the years, it's been my political identity, more so than my queer identity, that has been hard for people close with me to come to terms with. I remember once specifically my mom saying to me, "I can't ask you not to be gay, but do you really need to be an activist?" It took a little while for us to get to this point, but my mom is here tonight, and I think that we both agree that the answer is a pretty resounding yes. It is really necessary. Today, I'm honored to serve on the National Board of Directors of the Human Rights Campaign. HRC is the country's largest LGBTQ+ civil rights organization, which exists to create a world where LGBTQ people in all of our intersecting identities realize systemic equality, equity, and liberation in all aspects of life. HRC drives impact by inspiring, engaging, and mobilizing millions of pro-equality voters and supporters to elect pro-equality leaders and demand equity-based policies and legislation, changing hearts and minds through programming that increases understanding, visibility, and support for the diverse LGBTQ community in all aspects of our identity, and transforming the institutions and systems that shape our everyday lives by advancing LGBTQ inclusive policies and practices in schools, workplaces, hospitals, communities, and beyond. HRC's work is especially critical now when our community is under direct attack. I'm not sure if you understand how tenuous LGBTQ rights really are. A majority of Americans live in a majority of states, including Missouri, that fail to prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. For example, Missouri does not prohibit discrimination in housing against LGBTQ people. That means that a landlord can legally refuse to rent to a gay or transgender tenant. Missouri doesn't prohibit discrimination in employment either. It would be completely valid for an employer to fire someone in Missouri simply for being gay or transgender. And there are no protections for discrimination in public accommodations, which means that it would be defensible for a restaurant or hotel to deny service to a gay couple or transgender person. And it's not just the lack of legal protections that cause harm to the LGBTQ community, it's the overt actions of certain lawmakers to further stigmatize us. This year, about 400 anti-LGBTQ bills were introduced in state legislatures in 39 states. Almost 150 are anti-trans bills, including about 35 healthcare bans, nearly 100 sports bans, and about 15 so-called bathroom bills. Almost 100 bills are discriminatory education bills, and about 40 are discrimination in the form of religious refusals. Missouri recorded the third highest number of these bills, with 17 different bills being introduced in our 18-week legislative session. Every single one of these bills targeted transgender youth, what sports they can play, what medical care they can access, what rights their parents have to affirm and support them, and so on. And this is a population in dire need of support, not further marginalization. According to the Trevor Project's 2022 National Survey on LGBTQ youth mental health, nearly 2 in 5 LGBTQ youth report living in a community that is unaccepting of LGBTQ+ people. 73% of LGBTQ youth reported that they've experienced discrimination based on their sexual orientation or gender identity. 36% of LGBTQ youth reported that they've been physically threatened or harmed. and 60% of LGBTQ youth who wanted mental health care in the last year couldn't access it. And it isn't just our youth who are at risk. LGBTQ people are targeted for violent hate crimes at a rate of 2 times that of Muslim or Black people, 4 times that of Jews, and 14 times that of the Latinx community. Last year, 25% of reported hate crimes were committed on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity, and 50 fatalities against transgender and gender nonconforming people were reported. Already in 2022, we have seen at least 14 transgender people either fatally shot or killed by other violent means. Now, I just threw a lot of data at you, but here's some more, and it's good news. Roughly 80% of Americans favor laws that would protect LGBTQ people against discrimination in employment, public accommodations, and housing. And about 41% of Americans say they strongly support these non-discrimination protections. Only 20% of Americans say they oppose these laws, and only 7% register strong opposition. Roughly 2/3 of Americans oppose allowing small businesses to refuse to provide goods or services to LGBTQ people. This breaks down to a majority of residents in 49 states who oppose refusals to serve LGBTQ people. So why aren't our legislators acting on behalf of the clear majority in this country? And why does it seem like instead they're actively acting against our wishes? Why does it seem like our views don't count? By my interpretation, this week's Torah portion is a little instructive. When I was putting together these remarks, I learned that Parsha Naso has the most verses of any of the weekly Torah portions, 311 lines in the Torah scroll. And this Parsha has everything: leprosy, adultery, the priestly benediction, the consecration of the tabernacle, and a census. The first sentence is, the Lord spoke to Moses saying, "Take a census." The purpose of the census is to determine the different service to be provided by the various clans, and the varying numbers of each clan are listed. But later in the Parsha, like after the leprosy, we get to a description of the offerings of the tabernacle's consecration by the chiefs of the various tribes. 13 different chiefs make an offering, the exact same offering, even though 3 verses before the members of the tribes were counted, so their work duties could vary accordingly. Kind of reminds you of how fast our news cycle moves, and how something can be really important one day and not taken into consideration the next. It's also a reminder that simply being counted isn't enough. We have to make sure we're taken into account when decisions are being made that affect us. It turns out that a census is only as good as the ways it's used and the policies it informs. While a census may be objective, hard data, its uses are subjective and inherently political. We have the power to select the people who decide what to do with census information, and we have the power to guide their decisions, but we have to let them know what matters to us. My hope for you this Pride Month and throughout the year is that you are out about the issues that are important to you, and that you take pride in sharing your views. Whether, like me, it's LGBTQ equality or other issues that you may be passionate about, please make your views known so that you're sure you're counted, and then hold your leaders accountable to make sure your views really count. Thank you.
We continue now. Thank you, Elizabeth, for those amazing words. We continue on page 138 and 139 as we welcome in Shabbat with Lecha Dodi. When we get to page 139 and the last verse. That is when we will rise and turn toward the back to welcome in the Shabbat bride.
Lecha lecha dodi likrat kala penei penei Shabbat Kabbalah. Lecha lecha dodi likrat kala penei penei Shabbat Kabbalah la 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 la. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei penei Shabbat Kabbalah. Lecha lecha dodi likrat kala penei penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor, shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad. Hishmi'anu el hameyuchad, Adonai echad, u'shamo echad. L'shemot tiferet v'liti la 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 la. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi likrat kala penei penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki hi mekor haberacha perosh mikedem nisucha sofa aseh b'mashavat chila la 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 la. Lecha dodi likrat. Please rise penei penei Shabbat nekabela. Face the back. Lecha lecha dodi likrat kala penei penei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha u'v'tzola toch emunei am segula. Boi chala lecha lecha dodi likrat kala penei penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi likrat kala penei penei Shabbat nekabela la 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 la. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi likrat kala penei penei Shabbat nekabela.
And we remain standing and turn to page 146 for the Baruch Hu.
Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la.
Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la.
Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
And we turn to the top of page 149 and we read together in the English. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. And at the top of page 151, we read together, As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. And together on page 152, we join in the Shema.
Shema Yisrael,
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. You may be seated, and together on page 154, we read the Ve'ahavta in English, the middle of page 154. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments, and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. And we turn to page 157, and we read responsively at the middle of the page. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Page 158, Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh, Torah tehilot, oseh pelem. Who is like you? Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Moses and the children crossed the sea and sang to you with songs of joy. Who is like you, Adonai? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh, Norah tehilot, oseh pelem. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai.
turn now to page 160 for Hashkivenu, our evening prayer for peace.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim
Now, as we prepare ourselves for the central section of our service, the Amidah, as we turn to page 164, as we think of the words that Elizabeth shared with us tonight, to remember that we have a voice, and some of us are activists, some may not be activists, but you don't have to be an activist to use your voice. So in this world, as we prepare for the Amidah, we remind ourselves that we pray always as if everything depends on God, but we act and we speak. We speak up as if everything depends on us. And we rise now as we prepare for the Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 166. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah. Page 168. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim verofei cholim. Umatir asurim. Umekayem emunato. Lishenei afar. Micha mocha ba'al gevurot. Umido melach. Melech memit umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman ata lahachayot hakol Baruch ata Adonai mechayeh hakol. Page 170. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kedoshim b'chol yom yahalalucha selah. Baruch ata Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
You may be seated. And we turn in our prayer books to page 177. And as we welcome in Shabbat and begin to end this week, no matter what has gone on in our week, there is always an opportunity and a moment for gratitude. And so we pause as we think about those things throughout our week for which we are thankful. We hold on to those in our minds. Take a moment. And for those things, those gifts, God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. And we take a moment as we offer a prayer for our country and a prayer for the state of Israel. Neither one is in your prayer book. The first, the prayer for our country, is one we shared it last week. It is slightly rewritten after a conversation that our clergy had last week, and we shared it and share it again tonight. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of our children and alert to the care of the earth and all its living things. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died by coming together in their names to envision a better world. Grant our leaders untethered wisdom and a unified forbearance. May they govern with blind justice and compassion for all. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you and all living things. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Amen. And a prayer for the state of Israel, written by our own Eva Ashner. Thank you, Adonai, for granting Israel the courage, the strength, and the power to defend her borders and her people. May Israel continue to flourish. May it never give up tikva, the hope that the day will come when Israel will be at peace with her neighbors. And may Israel always exist as the homeland for the Jewish people. Amen. And we turn to page 371 in our prayer books. And we turn our hearts and our thoughts now to those in our community, our friends, our loved ones, those who are in need of healing. And if you are thinking of someone who is in such need, I ask that you rise, and together we will share all of those names of those in healing. If you have a name to share, please rise and call it aloud to the heavens. We take all of those names into our hearts, and those names that were not said, may God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit as we join together now in singing Misha Berach, our prayer for healing.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
And we take a moment for silent and personal prayer.
On the corner, there's this nice man. His name is Mark. He's always smiling. He's got this mom who comes on Wednesdays in the evening with soup so steaming. He shares his house with his friend named Martin. They're not brothers, they're not cousins. My little girl wonders all about these men. I take hold of her hand and I begin. Home is where the heart is, no matter how the heart lives. Inside your heart where love is, that's where you've got to make yourself at home. Across the yard live Deb and Trisha with their tools and ladders and their home edition. My kid yells over, "Are you having a baby?" They wink and smile, "Someday maybe." But through their doors go kids and mommies. Funny how you don't see the daddies go in. My little girl wonders about this house with no men. I take hold of her hand and I begin. Home is where the heart is, no matter how the heart lives. Inside your heart where love is, that's where you've got to make yourself at home. Round the corner, here comes Martin. He's alone now. He tries smiling. He roams around his well-stocked kitchen. He knows that fate will soon be coming. My little girl wonders where he will live. I take hold of her hand and I begin. Home is where the heart is, no matter how the heart lives. Inside your heart where love is, that's where you've got to make yourself at home. Martin sits and waits with his windows open. His house is empty, his heart is broken. We bring him toys and watercolors. He loves to hear my little baby's stories. She's the gift I share, she's his companion. She's the string on the kite, she guides him into the wind. My little girl wonders who will care for him. We take hold of his hand and we begin. Home is where the heart is, no matter how the heart lives. Inside your heart where love is, that's where you've got to make yourself at home. Home is where the heart is, no matter how the heart lives. Inside your heart where love is, that's where you've got to make yourself at home.
Shabbat Shalom.
Move closer to the mic.
Thank you. My name is Helene Sherman, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees at UH. Here's some information about what's coming up at Temple. Torah study begins at 9:00 a.m. in the chapel tomorrow or via Zoom. Shabbat service, Bat Mitzvah of Sylvia Dewaskin, begins at 10:30 a.m. via live stream. Sefriot, Singing Bowls Meditation, will be with Marita Shaw at 2:00 in person in the Youth Lounge. And at 6:00, we usher our Shabbat with Next Week Now via live stream. There are several Shavuot events. Whose 10 Commandments are they? Saturday, that program will be on June 4th at 7:00, led by Rabbi Bellows. Shavuot service on Saturday, June 4th at 8:00 p.m. Dessert at 8:45. Aseret Dibrot, or 10 Statements, will be on Saturday, June 4th at 9:15, led by Rabbi Rosenberg. Shavuot Hike at Queenie Park will be on Sunday, June 5th at 10:00 a.m. Also on Sunday, June 5th at 12:30 in the chapel, there will be a discussion with Yaha Mahamid, A Young Man's Journey to Peace. Lastly, Shavuot Scoop and Pie the Rabbi will be on Sunday, June 5th, also at 2:00 in the UH parking lot. That should be a lot of fun. Juneteenth Shabbat will be on June 17th at 6:00 p.m. For additional information on other upcoming classes and programs, please visit the UH website. And thank you, as always, to our tech team for making it possible for all of us to be together virtually tonight. The gift shop is open on Sundays when religious school is in session from 9 to 12 and by appointment. So, enjoy the activities, the programs, the classes, the services. Good Shabbos, and thank you.
And it is the first Friday of the month, which means we are celebrating You or some of you, those who have birthdays in the month of June. I only have one name up here, and I'll call that. And if you do have a birthday in the month of June, please stand so that you can have a blessing. And David Halpern is celebrating a birthday on June 25th, and because he put his age, I'm going to assume he wants me to read his age out. He will be 75 years young. If anybody else is celebrating, yes, wonderful, please stand. And as you celebrate this month, blessed be the source that dreamed the day of your presence here on earth. May you feel embraced and folded anew by the miracle of your being. And may you find the deep purpose of your soul loved and cherished into becoming who you are meant to be.
May inevitable dark gifts of hurt and loss school you in strength and perseverance. May you find holiness when you look into the eyes of someone who loves you. May you be a source of holiness for others. May you treasure and develop your uniqueness and be a blessing to all you meet. And together we say, Amen.
And we say to both of you, Ad Mea ve'esrim, may you live to be 120, just as Moses was. And we ask everybody to please rise. As for one last Friday evening, we count the Omer, which leads us toward Shavuot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer.
Amen.
Our praise to God who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to count the Omer. Hayom tisha v'arba'im yom shehen shiva shavuot la'omer. Today is 49 days, which is 7 weeks of the Omer. And we continue now on page 586 with Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. And we continue on page 593. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled. It burns, it glows. It is radiant with warmth and beauty. But soon it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our life burns down and gutters. There's an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair. For we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. This Shabbat, the heartfelt condolences of our congregation go out to the families of Perry H. Mamroth and Morris David Weiner. We are in the period of Shloshim for Philip Altman, Oro Duhov, Shepard Ellis, Gerald Friedman, David Lawrence Smith. In this week, this Shabbat, we observe the yahrzeits as we lovingly remember Fern Weinstein Bergson, Sadie E. Bleich, Harry F. Blumenthal, Leo P. Brash, Rose C. Brash, Al Breimer, Joanne Cellist, Margaret B. Cohen, Ann Quicksilver Cohn, Lily Ellman, Paul J. Ellman, George Ezel, Sarah Feldman, Celia Feldman, Gertrude Feldman, Harry Friedman, Flora Goldberg, Sam L. Goldenberg, Rose Goldstein, Arthur Z. Guller, Isaac Heiken, Beatrice Wallace Jacoby, Gertrude G. Cantor, Jacob Cass, Henrietta Katz, Eleanor Rubin Keene, Jane Lending, Rose Madden, Edna Mallon, Dr. Sidney B. Mathis, Jake O. Mathis, Sigmund Mershin, Gerald I. Miller, Marvin Nissenbaum, Julian Bud Orenstein, Dora Podolsky, Irma Potashnik, Samuel Preletsky, Lena Prewer, Ethel Quicksilver, Nancy Jean Renard, Miriam Resnick, Shirley Richmond, Jacob L. Romansky, Gail Schanfeld Rudman, Marjorie Ann Rosen, Johanna B. Roth, David Julius Schwartz, Joseph Siegel, Max I. Scher, Arlen J. Silber, Harry M. Silberman, Irving G. Saul, Sidney Stone, Ruth Tegman, Ida Towerman, Ray Werner, Betty Mayer Wolf, Suzanne Wolf. Zichronam livracha, may each of their memories be for blessing as we turn to page 598 and rise for the mourner's Kaddish. Yit gadal ve'yit kadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shemei rabba mevorach le'olam molmei almaya. Yit barach ve'yish tabach ve'yit pa'ar ve'yit romam ve'yit naseh. Ve'yit hadar ve'yit halev ve'yit halal shemei dekudashah barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiram be'alma ve'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru amen. And on this Shabbat, once again, we thank Elizabeth for her beautiful words. Parshat Naso is, in fact, the longest Torah portion, and chapter 7, which our bat mitzvah will be reading from tomorrow, is actually the longest chapter in the entirety of the Torah, and our bat mitzvah will tell you the most boring chapter as it goes through the gifts, these same gifts that are delivered each day. But our parasha reminds us, as a census is taken, just how important each and every person is within the community. It reminds us over and over again that we are all created in God's image, and each and every one of us is unique. And so our parasha also gives us the most perfect of benedictions. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and may God watch over you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May the light of God's presence shine upon each one of you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. And may each of you feel God's presence around you and within you always. And because of God's presence, may you find the gift of peace. And to that we say amen And before we come to our closing song of peace, I would be remiss if I didn't at least welcome. We have a rabbinic colleague in the congregation, Rabbi Shulamit Senker. Thank you for joining us as well this evening. And we join together in singing Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru die 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 Oseh shalom bimromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru Oseh shalom